Hello, everybody. This is Nick DeTiro, Professor of Information Technologies and Computer Science, Lakeland Community College. Let's talk the filter bubble. Now, start with some definitions, start with where we're going to go and what we're going to talk, and then we're going to do some demonstrations. First of all, definition. I think most of us know what an echo chamber is. Actually, an echo chamber is pretty comfortable. Say you live in San Francisco and you find out that there's a Browns backers club that meets at a local bar every Wednesday night. That's somewhat of an echo chamber. You go there, you talk about the Browns, other people talk about the Browns. It's pretty enjoyable. We create those echo chambers as a source of comfort. We do it with sports teams, we do it with politics, we do it with friends, we do it with family. We like to discuss things that are important to us with other people that agree with us, and that's fine. Sometimes that could be a little dangerous in which you are only hearing what you want to hear. Well, oftentimes we'll hear that the phrase confirmation bias. But the thing with an echo chamber is you've controlled that echo chamber. You've put yourself in that bar in San Francisco talking about the Browns at the weekly Browns backer. And that is completely acceptable. We need to be careful because what if there is something new and maybe important, but because it doesn't have anything to do with the Browns, maybe it has to do with the Steelers, we may not hear it. But we understand that. That's not what a filter bubble is. Basically, I think by now we all know that Google, YouTube, all these search engines, whatever, there's things called algorithms in there. And what those algorithms do is say, oh, especially in YouTube, it's very easy to understand an algorithm in YouTube. You watch a video, you like that video, and the next thing you know, you start noticing more and more videos associated with that topic. You know that. You expect that. But that's not a filter bubble. That is just the algorithm driving you over to more and more videos in which the algorithm thinks it knows what you want to watch. Remember, YouTube and the YouTube creators, they want you watching their videos. And again, that is completely acceptable. But what the filter bubble is, it is a theory in which more and more of your data is being collected and more of your decisions, not just in YouTube, but in all your decisions associated with the internet, gets filtered into a certain direction. And there have been studies upon this, and it is somewhat true. If you're always leaning towards a certain political party, whatever that may be, you'll notice that more and more of the YouTube videos, the search engine results, the podcasts that you may be recommended to tend to be leaning in that particular direction. That's not so good because it's not just YouTube, and I'm not bad mouthing YouTube, it's not just YouTube directing you to a video, it is almost the entire internet directing you to certain thoughts and certain principles. So I'm a firm believer in not allowing that filter bubble to control what I want to see. Yeah, if I'm interested in a certain video and the algorithm says, hey, if you're interested in this video, why don't you take a look? That's fine. But if that's all I see, if I don't see a contrasting opinion, then we get into particular situations. Now, before we go any further with demonstrations, if you're watching this video or you're on the internet, you have been told all the problems about the internet forever, right? If you notice the gray hair, I was around before the internet. I remember one of the most interesting thing on the internet was watching a coffee pot if it got empty, but that was 30, 35 years ago. But now we've all grown up with the internet. And we know that there's bad places on the internet. We know there is behavior, there is etiquette that we should follow for the internet. That's done. Now, unfortunately, many of videos very similar to this, they use a scare tactic. Don't do this, or bad things will happen. Watch your privacy. And some of those are very apropos. You need to be careful with your privacy. You need to be careful with your credit cards. You need to be looking at different websites and things like that. But I've discovered in the years I've been teaching that oftentimes scare tactics don't work. So I take a different approach. My approach is I try to explain what is the background, what is going on, and why. Now, what you choose to do with that information is completely up to you. So in this video, we're going to take a quick step into bursting that filter bubble. Why? I want to control, you want to control the information that is being provided to you. You want different opinions. If you are in high school or in college, fantastic. You want to take almost an adversarial approach. You don't want just one side of the equation, one side of the argument. You want the other side, and then you want to pull from both. Real simple. If your beliefs can't withstand the opposite direction, the opposite beliefs, if they can't hold up, if your beliefs can't hold up to that, you need a new set of beliefs because that's telling you something about those. So I just kind of want to take that approach. No scare tactics. No, oh, if you do this, something bad's going to happen. What I'm going to do is basically show you kind of what goes on and what is particularly going on there. The other thing I'm going to talk about is none of this stuff is nefarious. Some could slightly be, but the vast majority of my demonstrations, it's not nefarious. It's not Big Brother, the government looking to find particular information on you. It is what it is. The other thing is I don't talk about politics in my classrooms. I don't talk about politics in my videos. But I do use politics as an example. I explain it as scenarios. I don't want to give you my opinion about the politics, but I use them as examples. Why? Because politics can be very polarizing. We can look at pretty much politics and say, here's one side of the equation, here's the other side of the equation. And in most other subjects, that's very difficult. If I try to discuss the Browns or the Guardians, there's going to be gray areas. You could be a firm Browns backer, but you could appreciate Patrick Mahomes, right? Sometimes with politics, we don't get that appreciation. If you believe in politician X, everything politician Y says and does is going to drive you crazy. So I use politics as an example, but we don't discuss politics. But before we get into politics, let's run up to my screen and let's run through some demonstration. Let me explain what is going on. All right. I think most of you know what I'm looking at here. This is the Google search engine. Long drawn out stories about Google. Again, none of this is nefarious. Why Google is one of the most popular search engines, that's for another video. But if you look at this, there is a lot going on in this search engine. Probably the most important thing I want you to pay attention is right here. I am logged into my Google account and this Google search engine, which means everything I do with this search engine, every Google search, every YouTube video is being recorded by Google. Even if I'm not logged in, and I connect to the Google search engine, they are collecting anywhere between 50 to 75 data points associated with that connection. Now, that data point can be where you're physically located, what browser you're using, what operating system you're using, what time of day it is, you name it. 50 to 75 data points are immediately gathered by just going to the Google search engine. If you want to use Google, fine, but need to understand that. You will notice that as you use Google more and more, things become more and more convenient. All of a sudden things are, oh, I don't have to log in. I don't have to do this. It's managing my passwords. So I tell my students all the time, different video, different time, privacy is a balancing act. Privacy and security is a balance. The more you want things to be private, the more challenges are as a user. You want to be private, then you have to log in, log out all the time. If you want to give up a little bit of privacy for convenience, then you log in once and you stay there. But be aware, that Google is gathering all this particular information on me. Because I am logged into Google, every search, every YouTube, everything is being recorded. Now, there is something inside Google. This is kind of interesting. All right. I'm going to pretty much the settings. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but if I go here and I go to data and privacy, I can, if I go down to history, there's a thing called timeline. You notice I have mine paused. There's a reason for that. Google is tracking every piece of information I've ever asked for from Google. It's tracking all my logins to Google. It's tracking all my searches. That's a little scary for some people, but it's tracking that. I could request that information. And then actually in my forensics class and in my ethical hacking courses and in my security courses, I show people how to do that. And you'll be surprised. I think the last time I did a little audit on myself, Google had information going back from to 2008. All my searches going back to 2008. Those are not on my browser. It's a different story. Those are up at the Google server, and I can ask for them and I can delete them. I have them paused. It shows me my YouTube history. This information here is not being gathered and saved on your browser. It is being gathered and saved up at Google. And what they do with that is they basically begin to target advertise to you. So now you start getting what you think. Here's that filter bubble. You start getting to think what here is particular information. We discovered over the past 15 years, you've done these searches and we believe that you would find this information. Here's a product. Here are advertisers. This is normal. It's not nefarious. Many of us like that customizable feature. But with that, we start getting the spam emails. We start getting email, different things that it's not quite what we want. But more importantly, we get into that filter bubble where we don't begin to see other alternatives. Now, some of you might say, hey, Nick, how about if I use Incognito? I think most people know what Incognito is. It's a slight bit of privacy, but it's not really a privacy. What Incognito does in the Google Chrome is it basically, once you leave it, it destroys all the data that is inside your browser. It deletes all the data inside your browser. I use, and most people use Incognito if they're at a public computer. Right? So you go to a public computer, maybe on a campus or somewhere, and you log into it. It's probably best that you use the Incognito browser because then once you leave it, all your cookies and don't worry about your passwords, your cookies and things like that disappear or they get deleted. Now, I will tell you as a forensics individual, somebody that teaches forensics, you delete something from a hard drive, it's still there. We can still capture it. It is a first step into a little bit of privacy, but it doesn't hide anything once you go out to the internet. It just deletes the history associated with the browsing activities. So Incognito, use it in a public, you use it at home on your personal computer. It's fundamentally, personally worthless. What can you do to begin to burst that filter bubble? And we're just going to look at different browsers. One of the browsers of interest that you can download onto your computer or onto your smartphone is what is called the Brave browser. It's one of the first browsers, actually an offshoot of Chrome. The Chrome browser is a very, very good, clean, concise browser. Most web pages love it. Chrome was a little bit of an offshoot of it, and Chrome's process is a little bit about blocking blocking trackers and ads and things like that. Far more secure than just Chrome. If you look at, I've been running my Brave browser a little bit of time here. It's blocked, 343,000 ad attempts. It saved me 12.59 gigabytes, saved me about 48 hours of time. And what that means is they've done studies and it's kind of shocking, but on your smartphones, up to 25 to 30% of the traffic on your smartphone are ads, are trackers. you're paying for that, right? So this is an attempt by an organization, Brave, very good organization, to block those, to stop those. Now, it's not so much about the privacy as it is trying to stop those trackers and ads. Does it provide a level of blocking? Absolutely. If you were to use, though, if you were to use the Brave browser and you were to go to Google and do a search on Google, and again, if I was logged in here, I'm not logged in here, then Google would still gather that particular information. Remember, 50 to 75 data points they're going to pick up. And the other browsers do it too. Now, there is one browser that I strongly, strongly recommend to eliminate the amount of privacy that you'd be dealing with, and that is called the DuckDuckGo browser. Now, DuckDuckGo is not perfect. It's not a panacea. It is another browser, and their big thing is blocking those ads, those blockers, those trackers, all that stuff. And they will say that DuckDuckGo's search engines do not save your information and then do not sell it. So it's actually two things going on here. The Brave browser is stopping the tracking at the browser level. DuckDuckGo is stopping it at the search engine storage. Now, has there been stories of DuckDuckGo collecting some of the information? Yes, but not to the extent that Google has. So some information is being reserved or saved. Most information is not. So one of the first steps you can do is stop using the Google search engine. First of all, Google search engine, great search engine. They pioneered some really interesting methods to find hits. But if you don't want your information tracked, then use the DuckDuckGo search engine. There's one more layer. DuckDuckGo has its own browser. So now, if you use, now think about this, if you use Chrome and Google, Google's going to track all that information. Obviously, you hit Google, it's going to track it, those 50 to 75 data points. There's no ad blockers. There's some things you can do to mitigate it, reduce it. But if you use Brave and DuckDuckGo, now the Brave browser will stop those trackers. It's built in, so you don't have to do anything, don't have to throw switches, don't have to add an extension. So it's going to stop the ads and the trackers and things like that. And then if you use the DuckDuckGo search engine, it's going to greatly mitigate the amount of those ad and trackers and everything like that. But DuckDuckGo has its own browser. And I will tell you, I've been using the DuckDuckGo browser for a while now. I want to say it's only been out since October 2023, I believe. I jumped onto it. And the amount of spam that I've received, the amount of just, why don't you take a look at this that I've received, has dropped immensely. It's just, it really, really began to get rid of that. The other thing is, I don't see the same things over and over and over again. Quick story. In December, during my breaks, I like to investigate conspiracy theories. First of all, we landed on the moon, right? The earth is round. All, you know, there's no such thing as lizard peoples, but I like to see how people think. And the moment you start looking at flat earth, all of a sudden you get videos after video. By using this, it begins to eliminate that. But I want to do a demonstration here. You will notice that I've cleared the browser. There's no history in this. Let me show you something. I think this is just a really, really fascinating demonstration. All right. I'm going to pick two news sites, and they're going to be on the opposite ends of the political spectrum. Right. I'm going to pick Fox News and MSNBC News. And let's go to the websites. We're not going to comment about the content or anything like that. I don't care about that stuff. And I'm just going to do a real quick scroll down. I don't even want to read the headlines. I just want to go to Fox News and I want to scroll down. All right. That's good. Now I'm going to open up another tab. You will notice Fox News, 50, 51, 52 trackers were blocked by the browser, and none of that stuff is being saved up at the DuckDuckGo search engine. 52 things have been tracked. All right, let's go to MSNBC and do the exact same thing. Not going to read the headlines. Don't care about the headlines. Let me scroll. All I'm doing is scrolling through. All right, get to the bottom. Let's open up another tab, and you will notice that MSNBC, 28. Now, is Fox News worse when it comes to ad blockers and things like that, or tracking software? Yeah, face value is. But if I sit here long enough, I'm going to see almost a race to how many trackings it's going to block on both of them. So it's not an indication that either one of the sites are bad. It's an indication that these sites sell the information. They gather this information. So as you go to these sites, they begin to tell, where you come from, what's your IP address, your computers. So now they can sell it to advertisers and say, hey, Nick DiTiro has visited this site, and there becomes your filter bubble. So if I only go to one of those sites for my news, every day I go to the same site for news, that begins to paint a picture, right, to the advertisers, to these organizations. Now they're going to assume the filter bubble is going to keep sending me the same thing or same topics over and over. I want to look at both sides of the equation. It's not, if I do it long enough, it's not going to allow me to do that. Now, I can't do the demonstration, but if I was to do a Google search on a certain topic, you would actually see different Google search based upon past history. I can't do it because I no longer allow it to maintain past history. I hear this all the time. Now, I'm going to have to change my perspective here because it's going to get a little creepy. Adult sites. Adult sites, they gather a lot of information about you. They infect your computers with all kinds of malware and things like that. Not true, right? Not advocating it. I'm just explaining it. I'm going to go to, you're not going to see it because it's creepy. I'm going to go to one of the most popular sites on the internet. And let's see how many ad blockers, you're not going to see it. I'm going to go to it, get out of it, and then I'm going to open up another tab, and we're going to see how many ad blockers there are, right? Kind of little adult here. Let's be serious. So as long as you don't see it. Well, that was disturbing. Those things creep me out, but different things, different video, different time. All right, let me go to another tab. Click on it, and you can see that obviously I went to Pornhub.com, which is one of the top 10 visited sites in the world. I don't care, but I'm using an example. You will notice that 2 ads were blocked. I did the exact same thing. I went to it, got in, scrolled all the way down, just like I did with Fox News. Now, does that mean that Fox News and MSNBC are far worse than adult sites? No. It means that those organizations want to gather as much information about you as possible. Adult sites tend not to gather information about individuals, and they tend not to have malware on it because they want people visiting them, right? They make their money from people visiting them. So if they're tracking your stuff, they're missing out on potential revenue. Now, let me go to one more site, and I think most of us are familiar with this site. Wikipedia. Wikipedia usually hovers in the top top three most visited sites in the world. I think Facebook also hovers in there. But if I go to Wikipedia and I just look up topic, I'll look up Bruce Springsteen, right? How many ads? No trackers. Why? Well, take a look at Wikipedia, and I encourage my students to do this. Start looking at the websites. The more websites that will have advertisements in there or links to other places are going to track you more. Wikipedia does not have advertisements built into it. They are funded on a different principle. So if I go through Bruce Springsteen on Wikipedia, it doesn't really do much with the ad blockers. If I go back to the ad blockers, no. You'll notice that MSNBC and Fox News, they're still clicking away. Not as fast as that first login. Pornhub is still at 2, right? Yes, I will tell my wife for demonstration purposes I had to go to Pornhub, right? It's creepy, but so be it. Going to do one more demonstration. Going to go to YouTube. And we're going to watch YouTube a little bit. I love YouTube. I think most people love YouTube. Some great videos out there, but you need to understand that YouTube's algorithms are designed to constantly bring you back to YouTube or send you into other directions. So if I open up a tab, you can see that YouTube, just going to YouTube, tracked 4 ads, right? Those got blocked. Now, if I do a search on what do we want to see? All right. Haven't gotten to the video yet. You can see it went from 2 to 5, right? That was just from the search. Now watch. If I go to one of the videos and I'm going to pause it, all right? And if I go to the tab, you see it jumped to about 12. If I was to keep watching different videos, you will see it grow. You will see the amount of blocks that it will grow. There is one thing you can do with the DuckDuckGo browser that I strongly encourage. In the DuckDuckGo browser, under Settings, and you go to the DuckDuckGo player, you say, open YouTube videos in the DuckDuckGo player, right? And we'll leave it at that. All right, so we're going to close this. We're going to close this. If you remember right now, when I went to Bruce Springsteen Radio Nowhere, 14. Now, if I go to YouTube, give it a second. You'll notice it did not bring up, you want to see more Bruce Springsteen videos because I've blocked those, right? But now if I go to we're seeing the same thing, right? And if I go to the tab, it's tracked it a little bit. But here's where life gets interesting. If I begin to play that video, you remember the last thing was at 18, it brings it and opens up into another window. Okay, opens it up into the DuckDuckGo player, because YouTube, as you're watching those videos, I love YouTube videos, but as you're watching those videos, YouTube is gathering more and more information. Oh, you watched the first minute of this video. You watched the first 2 minutes of the video, and they report that information back. And if you watch to the end of the video, that is golden. And then again, they report that information back. With the DuckDuckGo player, it doesn't do that. So if I go back to the tab, you see we're still at 18. So it didn't gather that particular information. Let's wrap some things up. lots of little demonstrations here, just the beginning of bursting that filter bubble. It's not bad. It's the amount of data that is being collected on you is normal. If you don't want the data collected on you, I just going to have to say this. Don't use the internet, but that's not really feasible. So I'm not going to use a scare tactic that Google and Bing and YouTube and all these other organizations, Facebook, Twitter, are gathering information. You know that. You know that. But what you want to do is you want to turn some of that off. Yes, for privacy, but open up the capabilities of seeing other things. If you are in a firm believer of politician X, fine. I encourage that. But if all you see is the good stuff about politician X and the bad thing about politician Y, you're missing out. It's not it's not binary, right? There are good and bad in all situations. You, as the educated in the world, you want to see both sides of the equation. You may not like it, but again, I will finish this video with, if your beliefs can't handle the opposite side, might be time to think about your beliefs. So hope you enjoyed the demonstrations. Please understand, none of this was fair tactics. Some of the things you can do. I really advocate on the DuckDuckGo browser. It's available on the PC, it's available on the Mac, it's available on Android, it's available on iPhone. It's going to significantly reduce the amount of spam and always going to the same places. You're not going to get those, hey, if you like this video, you might think this other video, but why don't you do some homework? Why don't you say, okay, if I like this video, I'm going to decide to go to other videos instead of them forcing you over there. So hope you enjoy the video. I always end all my videos with, let's go out and learn something.